What's up, nerds? Welcome back. As I've told you many times, and as you can even see from the shirt that I'm wearing, I usually enjoy stories dealing with supernatural shit and, evil things. So let's talk about exactly that with Evil Ernie, issue number 3. Now, if you recall from the last issue, our boy has now been fully taken over by Evil Ernie, and he's trying to kind of put some of the pieces together. There are some changes to his personality a little bit, but there's still some of the same old, Ernest in there. But anyway, he encountered the same biker gang that caused his death the first time, and then he proceeded to kill all of them before he stumbled into the woods in almost kind of the same situation where he was just almost on the verge of death, and then he encountered Ronique, who was the one who gave him, the smiley button. So that's actually where we're sort of picking up, not really. We have a brief flashback to get through first. So we start out the story here, and we can see Ernie back, back in the day when he was still, this sort of medieval warrior, I guess. That's what this armor is like kind of telling me here. But it's also talking about how no one remembers his birth name because there ain't midwives in the darkest pits of hell. Over the centuries and before that, he's been called lots of things: the Black Plague, genocide, end of times. But a few thousand years ago, he started calling himself Evil Ernie, so that's where we got that. Anyway, it says, what he lacked in, imagination making up names, he made up for with results. And a certain boyish enthusiasm. And so we can see here where he has literal carts of dead people that he is presenting to his love. And he says, I trust my humble offering finds thee well men. So she's like, well, very well, my demented steed. Your lady is satiated, for the nonce at least. And we can see, yeah, this is Ronique, the one who in the present gave, Ernest the button. So it says she has gone by Mistress Mayhem, Simply Death, finally Ronique. Quite a couple, I tell you. And of course, if you can't figure out at this point, yes, it is the smiley button who's basically narrating this whole part. But anyway, it says for all his demonness, she was his only soft spot. The guy would do anything for his mistress. And that's where he's just kind of standing there. He's like, "It's too much, isn't it?" Because yeah, this is a lot. I'll be honest with you. If someone were to do all of this for me, I'd be touched, but I'd also be a little bit afraid. Because if you're going to do all of this, to get my attention and show your affection for me, I mean, you could have just taken me out to a movie or something. I don't need all of this. Like, I appreciate it. The thought is there, but maybe you could have scaled it back a little bit, and you can't return this. You know what? That's what I'm saying. That's the worst. You can't return this. So what am I supposed to do with it? You know what I mean? It has no value. You can't take it back to the store because it's destruction of an entire village, city, whatever this is. And so uh, the thought is what counts. So that's fine. That's fine. He put in the thought. So she tells him, though in truth your tribute might. Well, she's saying, yeah, in truth, your tribute might draw too much attention to your deadly beloved. I know your black heart is in the right place. Rise, rise, and take your place at my side. So he's thinking like, oh, this is exactly what I've been wanting. He's saying like, I can scarcely believe it. And the smiley button is saying like, he had it bad. But it says, I am not worthy to share your exalted gaze. She's like, oh, how adorable. You are questioning my judgment. So that's where Smiley's like, her, yeah, not so much. He's like, no, my lady, I lived, and I'm guessing he was going to say like serve you or whatever, but she says to obey my every whim, servant, without question, and that's where we can see like this arrow pointing at her back because as you can see, she's very obviously holding a sword, and so he's saying, I would die for you, and she's like, well, yeah, always, and then she goes on to prove that by literally cutting him in half, like literally bisecting him. So, of course, he screams out in pain. She says, I never get tired of hearing you scream, which, again, that could be endearing. Not in this situation, but that could be an endearing thing to say to somebody, in the throes of passion. Not in this situation, though. So, I will say I do like this. Seeing him literally, I don't think that you would literally, well, then again, there's magic power going on here. I was like, I don't know if everything would come squirting out like that just from getting cut in half, especially like with that kind of force out the back. But then again, like I said, there's magic energy here, so it could very well be that that's propelling it outwards. So Smiley saying it wasn't the first time she dispensed of him, the last either. The sap fell for it every time. Love sucks ass. Debatable. But anyway, he's lying there, obviously dying, and he's asking her, like, why and everything. She's like, well, you served your purpose. I will summon you when I have a use for you. And then she goes to walk away. He tries to reach for her, and she's like, don't hold your breath. I don't think he can hold a breath anymore. You kind of just cut all the way through him. Like, I'm surprised she didn't go all the way through the head, too. Seems like she stopped right at the neck, which I guess was a thoughtful thing to do. I don't know. Anyway, so Smiley say that he never liked her, and that's where we come back to the present, where we can see Ernest is there kind of like freaking out about what he's just been told, and he's like, you're telling me this, why exactly? And so Smiley's just there, he's a sadist himself, and he's saying, because I like to see you squirm. Not just you, all humans, really. Kind of like a fetish, and I want you to realize you're fucking doomed. Ronique is not your friend, she is evil and suffering, and death rolled up into one. She turns you into the living vessel for Evil Ernie, and like she does every time she's bored or challenged, or because you become a liability, she'll cut you in two as soon as look at you. So he's feeling a little bit despaired about that, as you can see. But anyway, he goes on to ask, but why me? I'm a good kid. I go to church every Sunday. I'm still a virgin even. See, I could get down with you when you said you go to church every Sunday. That used to be me. It hasn't been me for a while, but it was me for a few years. The whole virgin thing, that's all you. Anyway, Smiley is saying, if I had shoulders, I would shrug. Why ask why, schlub? So he's like, this is not fair. And then he goes and kicks a rock, but apparently he has like some sort of, I don't want to say superhuman, but he has above human strength now. Because for one thing, he kicks this rock and doesn't break his foot, which I mean, he could be wearing like steel toe boots or something like that. But anyway, he kicks it and like kicks it all the way up onto the damn, see what I did there? Anyway, he says, sorry, that was a little strong or whatever. And then he takes off running. He's like, this is too much to process all at once. So he just leaves the jacket and smiles like, kid, where are you? Ah, great. So he's just there because, again, he's just a button. So there's not really much he can do to move himself. So that's when we come over to New York, Syracuse, where we see this man sitting at a table kind of looking at, pictures of the slaughtered biker gang as he's sipping on his red wine, which, classy. I like it. He's my kind of guy, and we'll see why in just a second. Anyway, so we see where that detective, I think she's a detective, right? Yeah. She walks in. No, she's the chief of police, I think. Because when she was with the coroner, he called her chief. So I'm pretty sure she's the chief of police. Anyway, she comes in and she's saying, the only reason I tolerated these bikers in my town was because you promised they were only there to keep an eye on your investment. They were there to destroy property values and drive people out of town without actually hurting anybody. Clearly you aren't keeping up your end of the deal. So he does that whole like mafioso, like mob boss type of thing where he kind of looks up but not really, and he says someone was making a statement. My turn. I'm going to blow the dam and kill everyone in your pathetic shithole of a town. So this is where she sees like, oh, me trying to be like the hard bitch isn't working. She's like, you don't mean that, do you? And then she's just like, sir? And when he doesn't answer, she's like, shit, he's serious. So of course she walks away looking slightly perturbed. So we go from there back over to the university where we can see Ernest's roommate is trying to like hit on his tutor. She's trying to like get him to study, but he's just like, pretending like he doesn't know what the hell she's saying. And then she's like, I just told you. He says, I was distracted. And then he does the whole cliche, like trying to yawn to put his arm around her shit. And she's saying, we're here to study, Alec. If you fail this course, you're going to get expelled. He's like, believe me, you have my attention. So she tells him to back up, and then she threatens to like scream or whatever. And this is where he says, I do love a screamer. See, that goes to what I was saying earlier. Sometimes it can be an endearing, not in this situation, but it can be endearing if both people are into it, then it can be endearing. But that's kind of date rapey, not the type of, that's not what you want to go for. Like both of the examples you've seen in this, that is not the example you want to go for. But in most situations, like I said, both consenting parties, all good, actually kind of sexy. Anyway, so then we see where Ernest kind of walks in and he just says, hey Rumi, which if you remember, I had almost forgotten, but from like the first issue, I think it was, his roommate would do like that classic thing where it's like he would put a hanger on the door. So that kind of like told the roommate like, hey, I'm trying to get busy, so don't come in. So of course he comes in, and I don't know what the hell this face is that his roommate is making. Like, I get it. He snuck up on you and like scared you, but did he scare you enough to make you do this banshee's wail? Anyway, so he kind of looks up at him. He's like, Ernest, how did you get in here? He's like, I live here, remember? And this is where he's kind of like swinging the hanger around. And so we can see where like the chick is running out. She's actually very happy that he showed up and gave her the out. And then Alec is telling him like, that's not cool. We had an arrangement. So Ernest decides to just nut up and he like pushes him up against the wall. He's like, we have a new arrangement. You go find something to do while I get some sleep and I'll refrain from shoving this hanger up your ass and pulling out what passes for your brain. So nothing else needs to be said. Alec leaves the room. And so now Ernest is kind of standing there. He's like, what's become of me? And why the heck am I enjoying it? Because, yeah, this is a very different person from the person we saw in the very first issue. Like, this all is starting to affect his overall personality. But then we can see where there's, I want to say knocking, but it's more like banging on the door. And we can see where someone outside is saying, don't make me open this door, Alec. And then when Ernest opens the door, he sees it's his girlfriend, Candace. So she's like very excited, obviously, to see him. She says, you didn't reply to any of my texts or calls. I was afraid something happened to you. And then she gives him a hug saying like, I'm glad everything's okay. And he's like, well, she says, thank God. And he's like, yeah, God. Anyway, so he hugs her back, and then he's starting to get into it, but then all of a sudden, we can see where Ernie's voice comes out and says, enough already, and so she's just kind of, like, taken aback, obviously. And he says, you've been smothering me for weeks. You're like a goddamn stalker. So she's, like, starting to cry, which, I mean, granted, what he said was kind of mean, but he said one thing, and you're already starting to cry. Like, maybe, be a big girl for a second. Anyway, she says, you can't mean that or whatever. And he's like, are you even listening to me? Stop using my life to make yours interesting. Just get the hell away already. And then he leaves her there crying. So we see where he's kind of running away. And then he's standing at this, I think it's a light pole, saying like, the last thing I ever wanted to do was hurt her. But until I figure a way out of this mess, I can't risk her life. She's better off without me. So he takes off running even further because, yes, he is going to go get the jacket back. So, of course, her being the concerned girlfriend, she has to like chase after him or whatever. And then we see where he comes back to the jacket. And I think that they kind of confuse the like dialogue here because he's saying you and then Smiley is saying Smiley. I'm pretty sure that was supposed to be the other way around. Like he runs up saying Smiley and then Smiley says you. And then that's where, Ernest would finish it by saying you have to help me. So I'm pretty sure they mixed up those first two dialogue balloons, but whatever. So Smiley is saying, sure, kid, of course. Slip on this jacket and I'll explain the rest. So he's like, thank you at last. So, of course, he puts it on and then that's where Candace catches up to him. She's asking him, like, are you okay? And he doesn't say anything. So she's like, answer me. Don't be angry. Whatever is wrong, we can figure it out together. And she, like, yells out his name, Ernest. But then she gasps because he turns around. He's like, I'm sorry, were you talking to me? And then we see where Evil Ernie starts laughing and shit. So she starts saying the Our Father, which, I mean, I don't know how much that's going to help you. But hey, do whatever you feel is going to help. But that's where we leave off on this particular issue for now. And I'm continuing to enjoy this book. I'm not going to lie about that. Like I said, I enjoy the supernatural type of stories that deal with, like, magic and hell demons and all kinds of shit. It's always interested me. Even when I was that, church every Sunday, sometimes 3 times on the weekend, just depending on what I was doing. Because I used to be a reader and an altar server. So I used to do all 3 masses. A Saturday mass where I would read and then I would get up and serve the Spanish mass in the morning. And then I would stay and serve for the second, morning mass. So I used to enjoy that. But even then, I've always loved like stories about this, like demons and all kinds of like twisted shit. You get a lot of that, well, depending on the Catholic church you go to. Where I'm from, Mexican Catholic church, we're very, hellfire and brimstone, and I love it. I love shit like that. I'm not one of those people who goes to churches like talking about like, let's get up and do testimonials about how Jesus helped us stop touching ourselves at night. I don't get down with that type of shit. Like those places where they have like their own band who get up and play these like Protestant campfire songs. Like I don't get down with any of that shit. I really don't. I'm an old school type of Catholic type of person. Like if I wish that the Pope, I'm gonna get on a total tangent right now, has nothing to do with the comic book at all, but I really do kind of wish that the Pope hadn't done this whole thing of like being more restrictive on the traditional Tridentine Mass, which is the Latin Mass as they call it. I've always wanted to experience one and I've never been able to, and I'm probably never going to now. Not that I go to church all that often anymore, but you know what I mean? I'm never going to be able to see it now because, I mean, he basically put the kibosh on it, so it's like, well, damn it. Anyway. That's enough of just you getting a little bit of a flavor of what I like. I am very much, old school like type of minded. But then again, I've always been told I'm an old soul. So I'm getting to the point where I'm not going to be an old soul anymore. I'm just going to be old. So anyway, getting back to the comic, it's really fun. I'm not gonna lie. I like, the themes that are going on there. I like seeing, the actual progression as Ernest feels himself kind of losing, grip on, who he really is and trying to figure out what's going on. And even the whole part, with his girlfriend, it kind of came as a little bit of a surprise, but then it made sense when he's running away saying like, until I know what's going on, I don't want anything to happen to her, because he doesn't really know what's happening. All he knows is when he goes into like that Ernie type of mindset, all of a sudden people die. So he doesn't really know if he might hurt her or not. He kind of wants to like push her away until he figures it out. Very classic thing for guys to do, quite honestly. So we'll see what's going to happen with this. I am excited to keep reading the book. Like I said, I am enjoying it. I'm not going to lie about that. Evil Ernie's a very cool character. So we'll see what's going to happen. But I don't know if anybody out there has been keeping up with this series as well. If you have, make sure you comment. If you haven't and you've just been watching my videos, I appreciate that too. So feel free to share your thoughts with me either way. But that's going to do it for me on this video. So if you liked the video, make sure you like it. Make sure you're subscribed. Have the notification bell on. Share the video if you like. I don't know why it's always whenever I come to that one that I have to stop and think like, what was the other thing I need to say? Share the video if you would like, because I do appreciate it. But anyway, if you're done here, go read a book, especially this one. And if not, then I'll see you on my next video.